So I know I'm a little bit behind on this one, but what I did want to talk about briefly was the promo that aired during Impact Rebellion this past weekend, because Impact Wrestling debuted a new promo for Slammiversary before this past week's Impact Rebellion went off the air. Now, obviously, what a lot of people were talking about coming out of this promo was that the promo featured quick glimpses of recently released WWE superstars such as Samoa Joe, Chelsea Green, and Mickie James, all of whom, of course, have history within Impact Wrestling. But this promo actually was very similar to last year's promo for Slammiversary, when the early Slammiversary promo flashed images of the likes of Eric Young, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, Kurt Hawkins, EC3, Drake Maverick, Mike and Maria Kanellis, all of whom were released by WWE as part of the company-wide cuts brought about by the global pandemic. Now, of course, Maverick was the only one that returned to WWE. We saw the likes of Eric Young, Gallows, Anderson, Hawkins, EC3 all return to Impact Wrestling either at Slammiversary or last year. We also saw the likes of Heath actually come to Impact Wrestling for the first time. Now, in the promo also, and this is another name I do want to talk about, and we'll get into the probability of all of these names actually heading to Impact Wrestling in the future, but one of the names also that was involved in this promo was New Japan Pro Wrestling star Okada, who of course did previously wrestle for TNA all of those years ago. He was featured in this promo as well. Now, Impact Wrestling also announced their two next special events, one being Under Siege on May 15th and Against All Odds on June 12th. Now, Slammiversary will take place in July, but as of right now, the date has yet to be announced. So I do want to talk about these names that flashed up as part of this Slammiversary promo, because obviously it's going to get a lot of people talking. Are all of these names going to head to Impact Wrestling? Well, there's a chance. There absolutely is a chance that these names come in. I think Impact Wrestling, they did it last year, and they did it very successfully last year. And when they did it last year, as I mentioned, those names that came in, whether it was Eric Young, Gallows, Anderson, EC3 briefly, of course, Heath was part of those names that came in as well. It's without question that I think at least one of those names that appeared in that Slammiversary promo will show up at Slammiversary. Of course, these are all guys except Okada, and we'll touch on Okada in a second because I think his one is actually really, really interesting. But when it comes to the WWE released talents, of course they have to serve the 90-day non-compete clauses. When I did a video, was it a couple of weeks ago? Was it last week? Time just escapes me at the moment. But I did a video previously talking about some of these released WWE talents and where were they going to be headed? Could they be going to Impact Wrestling? And so many people, I think it was when I was talking about the knockouts. Yeah, this is right. I was talking about the knockouts because I was talking about Chelsea Green and I was talking about the Iconics. And so many people in the comments said, you do know they have 90-day non-compete clauses. Well, yes, we've been through this quite a few times when it comes to WWE releases. The only person that didn't have a 90-day non-compete clause is Andrade. For whatever reason, part of his release, that was part of the terms. Everyone else does. It's par for the course. That's what happens when you get released from a WWE contract. But let's go through these names. And again, I've spoken about these names briefly before, but now they've appeared on the Slammiversary promo, it's definitely more fuel to that fire, as it were. Now, of course, as I mentioned, Slammiversary, they did this last year, and WWE did this last year. They released the talent on the exact same day that they did in April previously, 1 year later, which is just horrible. But at the time, when they did it last year, a lot of people said, oh, is it just Impact trying to get attention? It's the same. It is the same. It is Impact trying to get some attention, trying to get some buzz. Do I think all of the names that appeared on the Slammiversary promo are going to appear at Slammiversary or Impact Wrestling in the future? Probably not. Probably not, because some of the names that were released last year didn't appear on Slammiversary, but a lot of the names did. So let's start off with Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green, as you can see there on the right hand of the screen, you can see right there. Do I think she's going to head to Impact? I've said this several times at this point, so this is nothing really new here. I think she's... No, I don't want to say she's a shoo-in or it's anyone's guaranteed, because I don't think anyone on that promo or anyone is guaranteed to be going anywhere. We've seen this as pro wrestling fans. Anything can and will change at a moment's notice when it comes to anything in the world of professional wrestling. That's WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan, whatever. Anything can and will change. But I think Chelsea Green is the most likely name out of all of those names to go to Impact Wrestling. And there's several reasons really why. Of course, her history. Look, she's a former Knockouts champion. She had a great run with her character there as the Crazed Bride, and that really, her work in Impact Wrestling is what got her signed. Laura Van Ness has got her signed with WWE, and I think it's obvious that she probably would want to go back to Impact Wrestling. I know there's been a bit of controversy, hasn't there, when it comes to Chelsea Green over the last few days, when it comes to artwork and artists on social media. If you're not familiar with that story, essentially the story is that Chelsea Green posted some artwork on was it a Twitter page or Instagram page or something like that, and essentially she didn't credit the artist. The artist reached out to Chelsea Green and said, look, I have no problem with you using my artwork. I'm a big fan. It's why I created that in the past. Can you just give me a shout out, or can you just credit me or whatever? And then Chelsea Green responded to this person saying, I've deleted it. I've deleted the artwork. And the person was like, well, you didn't have to delete it. Can you just give me the credit? And then Chelsea Green blocked the artist. And that seemed really, really odd. Now, she did release a statement and essentially apologized for it and said that she was all for artists and giving them credit, but she would just work with her artists in the past. It seemed like a really odd reaction. I've been in that past before on my own social media accounts. I've had it in the past before. This is a great example. All Out in 2019, I did a Tale of the Tape graphic. I did a Tale of the Tape graphic for Chris Jericho versus Hangman Page at the time. And it was just, again, really, it wasn't anything any special. I look back on these sort of things and I cringe because I don't even think that was that good. But I did a Tale of the Tape graphic of Hangman Page and Chris Jericho, and it was very lopsided because it said all of Chris Jericho's achievements, and then Hangman Page was like, at the time it was like Ring of Honor 6-man tag team champion or something like that was it. Anyway, Chris Jericho, he retweeted it, he posted it on his Instagram page and his Twitter page. And I reached out. I reached out to Chris Jericho. I think I reached out on Instagram and I reached out on Twitter. And I said, oh my God, I can't believe Chris Jericho's using my work. That's amazing. And straight away, because he hadn't credited me, and I didn't, this is a learning curve for anyone out there, make sure you put a watermark or a logo or something like that on all of your work just in case. And straight away he reached out and he credited me on social media, and it was great. It felt amazing. Oh my gosh, Chris Jericho used my work. That's amazing. And that felt like it was all as necessary. And the Chelsea Green one, that just seemed really odd, really, really odd, and disappointing, to be honest. I mean, you got to say how you feel. Disappointing that she reacted that way. So, but going back to, because that's a bit of a tangent, but it was very disappointing to see that. But going back to the original point, I do think she'll end up in Impact. She obviously has the history there. Former Knockouts champion. Impact Wrestling Executive Vice President Scott D'Amore's been pretty open and hinted that she could come back, and spoke about her running roughshod over Impact Wrestling previously in the past. And look, she'd be a fantastic addition to the Knockouts division in Impact Wrestling. I've been very vocal about how good the Knockouts division is in Impact, and for me it is second, maybe not in the world, but certainly in North America, to WWE. I do think WWE has the best women's division in the world. I think just the depth that they have and the talent they have there is phenomenal. You can criticize WWE for a lot of things. Lord knows we do. And like, criticism, by the way, is justified. But one thing you can't criticize them for is the talent that they have at their disposal in the women's division, the way they present their female wrestlers, the way they present their female talent. I mean, Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks just main event at WrestleMania 37 night 1. It's the second time in recent years that females have main evented their biggest show of the year. That's how much of a commitment they have to their female talent. So you can't question that, in my opinion, at all. But a second to WWE is Impact Wrestling, with the way that they promote their knockouts, with the way that they book their female talent. Their female talent regularly main event shows, they've main evented pay-per-views, all that kind of stuff, because they believe in the drawing power of female wrestling. And I think Chelsea Green, considering her history with the company, she's a former Knockouts champion, considering her relationship with Scott D'Amore and the other executives there, considering her partner, Matt Cardona, is currently with Impact Wrestling as well, all of that to me adds up is that she'll return to Impact Wrestling in the future, possibly at Slammiversary or just after. Mickie James, I've said this before about Mickie James when it comes to her returning to Impact, because of course she's a multiple-time Knockouts champion, former Knockouts champion. She was there during the Bischoff and Hogan years in 2010, 2011, that period of time, and she was there for a while. Look, I could see her absolutely returning, because I can see Mickie James kind of doing a tour of the promotions. I can see her going to an AEW as well, because I think she wants to prove that she can still go. And frankly, the fact that she wasn't pushed in WWE because of her age or because how old is she? She's nearly 40, or she might be 40. Is disgraceful, to be honest. If you're 40 and you're a male superstar or a male wrestler in WWE, you're just hitting your prime, right? You've got plenty of years left. You can be WWE champion. Bobby Lashley is 45 years of age at the moment. So the idea that just because a female is now 40, then suddenly she's not in her prime anymore, that's ridiculous. It's ageism. It's a double standard. Arguably it's sexist as well. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And Mickie James is a legend. She deserved way, way better and way, way more in WWE. So she could come back to Impact. Again, in my opinion, the Knockouts division is second to WWE in terms of female talent and female wrestling in North America. I know you've got promotions in Japan, Joshi wrestlers and that. It's not for me, that kind of stuff, but I know a lot of people like it, and I know the talent and the level of the matches there is very, very good. So I don't feel I'm in the position to say if it's Impact's the second best women's division in the world or anything like that, but certainly in North America they rival WWE. Do I see Mickie James coming back for a couple of appearances? Absolutely. Why not? I mean, you see Deonna Purrazzo is just, making headline after headline because she's so fantastic in Impact Wrestling and having these fantastic matches. I'd love to see her go up against Mickie James and have a real platform in a main event position, to have a multiple match storyline or face off against someone like Deonna Purrazzo on the big stage. I think that would be excellent. So I wouldn't rule it out. I do think, though, with Mickie James, as I mentioned before, I do think her future is more difficult to determine. I could see her going to AEW because it's a bigger platform. Mickie James is a very big star. She's got a ton of history in the industry. Also, as well, I can see her going to the NWA because of her ties there. Obviously, when it comes to the NWA, she is married to the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. Doesn't necessarily mean that's the reason she would go there, but she's got connections with that company. Nick Aldis, obviously, behind the scenes has a lot of pulling power, and he's more than just the champion for that company. Helps put together the shows. I think he probably helps produce the shows as well. Obviously, the close connections to Billy Corgan. It benefits the NWA to have someone as well known and high up as a Mickie James come in and help legitimize their women's division. Of course, the current NWA World Women's Champion is an AEW wrestler in Serena Deeb. They've also got the likes of Thunder Rosa, who eventually I think will sign solely with AEW, but they've got that working relationship there. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mickie James goes to the NWA, but I could see an Impact Wrestling appearance in the future. Okada's a really interesting one, and I say that's really interesting because I know a lot of people will roll their eyes when they say, what, Okada? New Japan's Okada? Why on earth would he go to a tiny company like Impact Wrestling, all that kind of stuff? There absolutely is a possibility. There is a real possibility Okada could come to Impact. The reason I say that is because there have been reports that it could happen. There have been reports by Dave Meltzer and people that would know, going back a couple of months at this point, saying that Okada or a big New Japan star was going to come over and be part of this AEW and Impact Wrestling working relationship. They just didn't know. They just didn't know which company it would be. Now, a lot of people thought Okada, if he is going to come over, it would make sense he goes to the bigger companies that's AEW at the moment. We don't really know what the relationship truly is between New Japan and AEW at the moment. It's better than it has been, and of course it was announced last night on Dynamite that Jon Moxley is going to be defending the IWGP United States Championship next week on Dynamite as well against a New Japan wrestler. So it's kind of, that relationship is building. I don't know if we're at a level yet where an Okada is going to come in and work for AEW or whatever. But those reports that Okada was going to come over to the States and do work with either AEW and Impact have been going on for a while now. And it makes you wonder, given his history with the company, which wasn't good, of course, Okada. Impact Wrestling have apologized to New Japan because of that. Impact has a good working relationship with New Japan right now. A New Japan tag team is the Impact World Tag Team Champions in FinJuice. So that working relationship is very strong. They're very happy working with each other. And also the new Impact World Champion, new unified Impact World Champion is Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega versus Okada in an Impact Wrestling ring. That's a main event right there. That is something that could sell Slammiversary and do big business for Impact Wrestling. And maybe that's why they wanted to ensure that Kenny Omega won the Impact World Championship, not just because of the promotion and the buzz that it generates, but also because they know, look, we've got an agreement with New Japan that Okada's going to come in and maybe work one match. How can we make that match as big as it possibly can be? Why don't we make it Kenny Omega versus Okada once again, but this time inside of an Impact Wrestling ring to main event Slammiversary? That's a real big deal. So I wouldn't rule that one out. And again, I know people will roll their eyes and say, well, Okada, he's not coming to Impact. I think that's a possibility. I really do think that's a possibility. Now, again, he could come into AEW, and maybe the AEW match is more likely. But I wouldn't rule it out. I really wouldn't rule that one out. And finally, obviously, the name that obviously everyone's talking about in that promo, and the name that everyone was talking about when it came to the recent WWE releases, is Samoa Joe. Do I see Samoa Joe heading back to Impact? That it's a real tough one. It's a real tough one. Don't get me wrong. Samoa Joe versus, say, Kenny Omega inside of an Impact Wrestling ring, that's money. That is money. And Samoa Joe maybe having another run for the X-Division Championship, going up against Josh Alexander, the new X-Division champion, that's also money. That is also money. And there's so many other guys on the Impact Wrestling roster that I'd love to see Samoa Joe face off against, whether it's Ace Austin, Chris Bay, Sami Callihan, even Eddie Edwards, those kind of names. I think it would be great. I just am slightly hesitant when it comes to Samoa Joe, just because purely where he is in his career at this point. He's done Impact Wrestling. He did it for a long time. He was there for, was it 10 years or just 9 years? Well, around 10 years. And he did everything there. He was a world champion, X-Division champion, tag team champion, you name it. He had done it all. And I know it's a different company at this point, and I know it's a different landscape, and there's different opponents, a different roster, all that kind of stuff. But coming off of that WWE run, which, to be honest, apart from not winning a world championship on the main roster, was pretty successful. Everyone was stunned that he was let go. I think a lot of people still are stunned, especially when they listen to the commentary on Monday Night Raw at the moment. They're stunned that they could let someone of this talent, this caliber go, just let alone on commentary, let alone in the ring. I just don't know if I see Samoa Joe coming back to Impact Wrestling initially. I think Samoa Joe, to me, it's always felt more likely that he would go to AEW, and I might be wrong. I might be wrong with that, but I feel the money is for him to go to AEW. I think he's wanted by AEW. I think Samoa Joe signing with AEW is a big statement of intent. I think at this point they need to be careful with how many people they sign. That roster is incredibly bloated as it is, and to get significant TV time is difficult at the moment on TNT Wednesday nights on Dynamite. It's very hard, but Samoa Joe, he gets it. He would get that TV time, and there's a lot of opponents there on that AEW roster that I think a lot of people really want to see Samoa Joe face off against. And to me, it just, I think it makes sense, and I think it's more likely he goes to AEW. Now, of course, we could be wrong. And Lord knows I've been wrong in the past, and who's to say that Samoa Joe doesn't show up at Slammiversary? Just because they show up at Slammiversary doesn't mean they're going to be in Impact for a long time. We know the per appearance deals. We know the situation when it comes to contracts and Impact Wrestling. Look, EC3, right? EC3 came in last year at Slammiversary, and he wasn't around for that long, was he? He was in until Bound for Glory, and actually only made a couple of appearances inside the Impact Zone, and he didn't actually have a match inside of an Impact Wrestling ring. So there certainly is different possibilities and different outcomes. I just see Samoa Joe's future heading more in the direction of AEW. But don't get me wrong, I'd be very, very happy to see Samoa Joe back inside of an Impact Wrestling ring. I just don't know if I see it. I think AEW is the more likely option. But look, it's very exciting. It's very exciting. I had a ton of fun, and I think everyone did, getting excited for Slammiversary last year. All of these potential surprises, and the Impact Wrestling television program was fantastic. Heading into Slammiversary last year with all of these surprises and these teases. And look, it's happening again. I'd rather not see people lose their job. Obviously, that was the issue last year, and it's the issue this year. But it's exciting, and I'm sure Impact Wrestling will make the most of it. And it's certainly going to provide some really exciting and interesting content. And look, if just one of these people that was advertised in that Slammiversary promo actually show up at Slammiversary or on Impact Wrestling television in the future, it's a massive get for the company. So it's a very exciting time. It's a very exciting time for Impact, as it always is. We head into Slammiversary and then into Bound for Glory. But this year, possibly, we could get some even bigger stars than we got last year. So it's a very exciting time. But of course, as always, it's just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on the Impact Wrestling Slammiversary promo that aired at Rebellion this past weekend? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about Impact Wrestling, WWE, AEW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, subscribe subscribe button at the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.